Hello and welcome back to Florida Foodie. I'm your host, Lisa Bell.
And I'm Candace Campos. If you ask a kid where food comes from, they'll probably say the store or maybe even their parents. And in fact, a lot of adults may not fully understand what it takes to get their meals onto their table. That's where Edible Education Experience comes in. Sounds fun, right? Well, they provide what they call a seed to table education, working with kids and adults to look at all facets of food.
So to tell us more about this organization and how it all works, we are joined by culinary educator Erica Osti. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me today.
So tell us about yourself. How do you become a culinary educator?
Well, I'm tuning in here from the Emerald Lagasse Foundation, Kitchen House, and Culinary Garden. And so my journey, like many other culinary educators or chefs, is unique. From when I was a kid and visiting my family, my grandparents in Pennsylvania, they always had a garden, and I would always eat like fresh lettuce and fresh fruits and vegetables. But when I would come back to Florida, I was like, no, I don't want a salad, because it was my grandpa was growing it and we were harvesting it and eating it together. And, I never made that connection until I was older, but it was like, I only ate salads in Pennsylvania in the summer with my grandparents, at that age was, kind of where it grew my love for learning about where your food comes from. And then in college, I was just working in restaurants and working at Kiki's, doing some prep, working at a place out by the Florida Mall that's no longer there anymore. And so I just kind of stayed in that realm. And I worked for Advent Health for 8 years when it was Florida Hospital, doing children's health and wellness programming and working closely with the chef at the Diabetes Institute there. And then I actually was connected to Edible Ed when they were on the school campus when it first started and was volunteering. And so I just had a very unique journey of getting to this place. And I was doing health education and creating programs and had some food background, and my health coaching certification had some food aspects to it and kitchen and cooking aspects to it. But then I was very lucky to train with Chef Allison, who was the previous chef here, and Chef Kevin Fonzo, who both prepared me very well for this job. And so that's kind of how I landed here.
And what is Edible Education? So if someone has never heard of you, how would you describe Edible Education Experience?
So we're all about bringing people here for a seed to table experience, which is going to include the garden and the kitchen. Could be including some harvesting, which even the term harvest and the action is not like, what is that? So we talk about some of that even with our adult students. And so really all of our programs, no matter if they're for adults or kids or everything in between, are focused on building confidence, building skills, and creating a sense of community around food and around the table and around the experience of creating food. So we do all types of integrative education where it's history, math, STEM, and science. For kind of like the school day, we do other types of integrative education where it's more focused on mindfulness, sustainability, environmentalism, maybe with a university group. And then we even talk about biomimicry and some of the other teamwork and different aspects of how we work together in our organizations and how a garden and kitchen experience can kind of have a lot of relations to that. And you can kind of look to the garden and as a guide to, okay, maybe we can make some shifts, among our team or our org, and that biomimicry, looking to nature to help us solve some of those answers as we have always done.
So I absolutely love your organization. You are located in College Park, and I happen to live in College Park. Oh. And it's cool. I mean, I'm trying to describe this to people who have maybe have never driven by your spot there, but basically it's gorgeous. You have a 2-story building surrounded by this lush garden, and inside is this large kitchen, if you will, with different stations and learning rooms. But not only that, you are partnered with Emerald Lagasse, and this place is absolutely beautiful. It's fairly new. So how did that partnership come about, and what is his role in what you guys are doing?
Yeah, so we've been here for about 4 years, and we've been a little bit of a hidden gem. And then, of course, there was a unique year last year. So, there's all of that. But Emerald Lagasse was so wonderful, and he's one of our capital sponsors. So Emerald came down and heard what our garden educator, Brad Jones, and what Chef Kevin Fonzo from K Restaurant in College Park were doing at the Orlando Junior Academy campus, and how it was serving those students, but they wanted it to be so much more and wanted to be able to serve more students and adults. And so that's how creating the own nonprofit kind of came about. And so Emerald came down, saw that, and linked up with Advent Health and said, hey, you guys are here locally. I'm over in New Orleans. Let's do this. And so they said, yeah. and so they were super generous capital sponsors. And then we do, Emerald came down for the ribbon cutting, and we hope he comes back soon again. We'd love to see him. It's been a little while. And we also interact with his foundation, and we have a board member from his foundation, and they tend to kind of support when we have different fundraisers and going on.
So when you host these classes there and you have these cooking sessions going on, how important is it for the people who are participating to be able to just like go outside, pick their fresh ingredients, come back inside and put together this amazing meal?
So important. We love that there's like a 10-foot, and I'm like, I can show you. I don't know if that would be too early, but I'm right next to the kitchen.
Yeah.
So
take us on a tour.
Take you on a bit of a tour, going from the office area. And so we're kind of coming into the kitchen the back way. There's the garden outside. And here behind me is our kitchen, and you can see there's some action going on in here. There's Chef Kevin in the back and some of our Edible Ed staff. He's cooking for a wonderful event tonight with Foodie, which they do some awesome wine education. That's really, really great and regional. And even though it's wine, they actually really align with our mission, because they're all about education and consumption in a healthy way, and how you pair that with food. So we really love sharing our space with renters like that. And so there's a lot of opportunities. And so you can see some of the seasonal items growing right behind me. You've got amaranth, tomatoes that are kind of getting ready to come out. And we just finished up peach season. And we've also got some big corn growing. I was trying to make sure that you could see the corn, but yeah, so lots of goodies.
So what is it? I mean, what's that feeling like when you see these kids, in some of these programs where all of a sudden you see them picking the fruit, maybe a fruit or vegetable they would never have eaten, but because they were able to see it from the get-go, from the seed, you could say, what's that feeling like?
It's truly amazing. I mean, the things that you see kids and even adults, because let's face it, adults are really picky and they're set in their ways. So it's truly amazing to see the kids come here and harvest the greens and make a salad and eat it all and go back for seconds. And so we really see a lot of picky eaters. We have picky eaters all the time, teenagers especially. And we are always seeing them trying new things here. And that's the amazing part. And sometimes we have to prepare some steps ahead of time, because we only have a 2-hour class. But there's certain things I know. If I prepare the salad ahead, they're not going to eat it. We can make the dessert ahead of time and they're still going to eat it. So there's certain things where we know they need to be part of making the salad. They need to be part of harvesting and chopping the vegetables, because when they are, they're going to eat it. And usually they enjoy it. We're very invitational in our education. So there's no, you have to have it or you have to do this. We talk about a no thank you bite, just trying it. Don't like it? No, thank you. And so it's just great to see, even with that super invitational way of teaching, that you have kids just eating a beet salad, just eating tons of those vegetables. And the parents are like, oh, wow, I didn't think that was going to happen.
Don't you think there's been such a huge awareness and transformation over maybe the past few decades, where there is all of a sudden, it seems almost like this new importance placed on food education and teaching kids about where food comes from. And maybe obviously with your experience working in the hospital, and we see obesity levels rising among all age groups and health issues rising among all age groups. I mean, there seems to be like a growing, awareness about how important this is, knowing where your food comes from and how important it is and how healthy it is for you.
Yeah, I'm really thankful for the opportunity I had to work with Florida Hospital straight out of college about 10 years ago in developing some health and wellness program, Mission Fit Possible. And we were able to take that out into the community, into schools in the Tri-County area. And also I was an educator for their weight and wellness clinic, which is for kids and teens with diabetes. And so what you just described is so true from my experience and perspective, because I started 10 years ago. I was like a baby starting out, and these health and wellness programs going out into the schools, there weren't posters, there weren't this push of that health education, that Florida fresh from Florida grown, that whole thing that wasn't even in existence. And so you're right. There have been, even back in my old role from the first 5 years, it was amazing to see like the Healthy US Lunchroom Challenge started. Michelle Obama came out with the Let's Move campaign. Florida schools were making a push for fresh from Florida foods. You had East End Market opened up. You had all these other local kind of food hubs, and local gross fleet farming became huge. Those front yard gardens and all of that has kind of created this synergy and this energy around health and wellness, and even Advent Health, and some of the things that they've been doing over there and innovations. So I definitely think you're correct about that. And especially in the last 10 years, not just for kids in schools, but in so many different, even like at Publix, you're seeing different signage and those sort of things. And the big box grocery stores are making more of a push to, I'm seeing all the time more and more. I'm like, oh, this is from a farm up the street in Publix, Yeah. So yeah, I totally agree with that. And I think that I'm excited that we're here at this time and have been here for a few years and are able to be part of that, that shifting culture.
And you guys are not only just doing cooking classes, because Lisabel is an amazing gardener and she has this garden in front of her house. I try to grow anything and I just grow weeds. So would I be able to, as a mom, go learn how to garden and be able to take that home and start our own little garden?
Yeah. We actually do have a Becoming a Gardener series that's for adults. That's a great class. There's an intro Becoming a Gardener class, and then there's follow-up series. Connecting with your community garden is great. I always think there's so much success in collaboration. And then you get so much abundance in a garden. It's so hard to consume it all yourself. And so you're often giving away anyways. So even just learning and taking that to your community garden to be able to grow there, I see that as kind of a way of the future, is folks coming together, growing in community. It's so much easier. If you can't make it out, your neighbor can water it for you. There's such a benefit to that. So yeah, we have all kinds of classes for kids, for adults, seed to table, like you said, the garden, more of the seed focus. And then we even have various like just fun events where you can come out and learn a little bit, interact with a local chef, and your ticket is going right back into supporting seed to table education. So it's kind of a twofold. You get to enjoy an event and you're supporting some great education.
So on top of that, what I love about what you offer is obviously age appropriate classes, groups for all different age groups. I know before the pandemic, you also had a lot of date nights. Are you still offering as many things? And how did, going through the pandemic affect you guys? Because one of your big thing is obviously having groups of people coming together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it was a big shift, and we had to cancel quite a few things at the beginning of last year when all of that happened. So some of our programs, because it was with schools and students and things, that they were all, not doing field trips. And we were really lucky to be able to just pivot virtually. And we had some friends in the school system that were pivoting, very quickly virtually, and they helped us out. Dramatic Education, actually, they have a wonderful program, and they do different programs in some of the Orange County schools. And we were able to be a guest on their virtual show or virtual class and teach on there. And we were able to really learn Zoom quick, learn the virtual quick. And so we rolled out with virtual summer camps last summer. And, it was like one of those, okay, it's going to be great, but it's going to be kind of compromised. But then all these beautiful things happened where kids were in their own kitchens cooking, 5-year-olds, 7-year-olds, 12-year-olds, 16-year-olds, and siblings were coming down. Hey,
right.
I was upstairs playing video games, and I didn't know you were doing this virtual, I didn't know this was going on. And so they're joining in, and mom's joining in, and they're like, I don't have a juicer. well, I can use my hand. Okay. And so it was just like this really great opportunity to kind of see, okay, there is this wonderful benefit of the virtual classes, and we're still teaching some virtually, we're doing some in person, and we definitely love in person. That's our bread and butter, but I can see a virtual component staying forever now.
Well, it does make sense because obviously you serve a large area in Central Florida. And then not only that, I do think there is a big value of people realizing I don't just have to go someplace to do this. I can actually do this at my own house. Did you send,
that's what we talk a lot about.
Right? Did you send the ingredients to their house, or how did that work?
So I was going to say one other beautiful component was that because we do have this wonderful outdoor garden, we were able to add a garden tour component. And so for families that felt comfortable and wanted to come out, and we were masked and everything, even outside, distanced, they could come as a whole family and go on a sensory garden tour with one of us, typically with our garden educator, but just, the scheduling, it would be with another educator. And you get a 20 or 30-minute tour through the garden and just talking about seasonality and how the different aspects of the garden are working together, and even how that might relate to your own body, like putting water into the garden and water into your own body. And just, there's so many different things that you could talk about. And we had so many families say, this is the only thing we've done this summer. This is the only time we've come outside. And it was so healing. It was the first time I took a breath this year, just those kind of conversations that we were having. And so that was a really beautiful part, is being able to just offer those garden tours, and they could just click and sign up. And we had that, we've been kind of including that as part of all of our virtual classes as an optional offering. And most people take that up for sure.
So how can people get involved? How can we sign up? Are there classes all year round? Do you have to sign up and register in the beginning? Is there a waiting list? Give us all the facts.
Yeah, so edibleed.org. Signing up for our newsletter is definitely the best way to get in the know. We often will send information to our newsletter folks a day ahead. Then it goes on social media. And some of our events do sell out pretty quickly. So that's a nice little benefit of just being on there and being able to get those tickets that day. We have certain events that are free. Some are ticketed. Classes, typically you schedule ahead, right, with a school, or we work with homeschool groups or Girl Scouts or other youth, wherever kids gather and they want to come and have an experience here. We just had a group of graduating high school seniors drive all the way up from down south to do a beautiful experience here. And then they were volunteering elsewhere in Orlando afterwards. Nice. So edibleed.org, we've got a newsletter. We're always looking for volunteers. It's really great because we have, retired teachers, we have gardeners, but then we also have folks that help us with our audio visual, folks that come take photos, people that just come help wash dishes and help after class, and or come be a table captain. So we have all kinds of unique volunteer opportunities, some that you might think of obviously, and others that you might not realize. So that's another great way to also get connected and potentially go to a cool event and volunteer, and maybe get to even try some yummy food. Yeah. So there's typically perks. There's usually perks to volunteering. So the newsletter, coming in as a volunteer, and just coming out for a class, either as a family, as a single person, as, for summer camp, we have, our summer camps are almost full, but we do still have some slots for summer camp as well.
You talked about how during the pandemic, people would come and walk through the garden, and, it was like a cloud had lifted off them. And I think a lot of people find gardening very therapeutic. And so being able to volunteer and, kind of sampling some stuff is definitely a bonus. Tell us about some of the menu items though that you guys prepare in class there. And these are young kids in some cases preparing these dishes.
It's pretty amazing. So we really, we're always focusing on seasonality. What can we get from the garden? Can we get from other local growers if we don't have that? So we really vary based on the season, but some things that we make typically every year, because we are always tabbouleh. We're always making tabbouleh because we have tons of parsley. And it's really great because you can talk about grains and pseudo grains. You can do bulgur or quinoa. So there's so many great learning aspects in tabbouleh, and as well as knife cuts. us. We do falafel in that season because there's parsley, and we do a baked falafel, and everybody loves that recipe, and the kids just eat it up. Recently, we've been making these really yummy gluten-free blood orange bars where you actually blend up blood orange and cocoa and chocolate chips and a little gluten-free flour and egg, and you have these amazing bars. But the kids make we do stuffed shells, we do handmade pasta, we do handmade pizza, we make veggie sushi, and we really love to learn about different cultures and history through food. So even if that's not the objective of the day, we're always going to at least have some component about where did this food originate, or how did this food come about, or is this a more modern thing? And you start to notice that there's dumplings all around the world that are very simple, or there's handheld food all around the world that's very similar. And so it's kind of neat to see kids and adults picking up on some of those themes and trends and starting to really understand the journey our food has taken, even from thousands of years ago to today, not just the journey it takes today, right?
Yeah, I love it. And this is such a unique organization. I'm not aware of any other organization like this really around the country. I mean, you probably know of other ones, but it seems like this is certainly the only one in Central Florida that's doing something like this.
So Edible Schoolyard in Berkeley was a bit of inspiration for us. And so and that's Alice Waters. She's a really prominent chef, has done a lot in the food movement, and especially for sustainability farmers out in California. And so that was essentially the inspiration for creating Edible Education Experience. Now, there are other edible schoolyards around the country, but the thing with an edible schoolyard is they're always just linked to a school or a couple schools. Mm-hmm. And we wanted to be able to have more variety in what we do. And, we work with OUC and Advent Health, and we work with a lot of companies with adults as well. So it just made more sense to kind of learn from them. The team actually went out to Berkeley and trained with them. They do a teacher's academy in the summer. So Edible Schoolyard is definitely a great inspiration for us. And they have all kinds of open source curriculum that we definitely tap into. And we even virtually meet with some of the other edible schoolyards around the country. There's, I think, one in Brooklyn, in DC, there's a few spread around the country. And then here you have some other educational kitchens like the Diabetes Institute and Ebony Nutrition. And then, Four Roots is going to be coming up with some educational components, but nothing really ours is a total hands-on kitchen. It's a hands-on experience. It's not a demo kitchen. So a lot of kitchens are more of you kind of come, you might sample, you more watch a chef, and then you eat. But this is very much like, we're going to put the knife in your hand and we're going to do this together.
Well, I think Candace and I need to come and check it out on wine night or some type of date night.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
It's just funny because Lisa was talking about how gardening is therapeutic, where with me, because I don't know what I'm doing, it's more of a
stressful.
I think, so I think a little gardening and wine, Lisa, I think that
there you go.
Podcast.
It's all the problems of the world. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the true thing about the food too, with the confidence building. Not everybody likes to harvest. It's like some of them actually just like to clean up. Like sometimes you have a member on your team that really is that cleanup person. Some people love to plate. So it's just neat to kind of see, even with adults and kids, where they, what thing they hold on to and what thing they really like. And we encourage that. And, we try to get them to try other things. But it's always great to see how they can kind of find their part in food. It doesn't have to be a specific thing.
Well, I love it. Well, thank you so much for joining us. And, the work you're doing is incredible. And it's such a great thing for adults, for kids to go check out, pick some stuff from the garden, and then go make some delicious guacamole or something.
Yes, definitely. We just did a guac a little while ago, and we always do a guac competition at summer camp. So that's I like to taste test for that.
We'll volunteer for that. Let us know when that's happening. Yeah.
We do a lot of grinding up spices too. So no, we're not going to get it ground. We're going to grind it up in a mortar and pestle ourselves. So it's pretty neat to see what they come up with.
Well, Erica, thank you so much for joining us. Best of luck to you guys.
Well, we look forward to seeing you here soon for a garden tour.
Sounds good. Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a great day.
Thank you for listening to Florida Foodie. We'd also like to thank our guest, Erica Osti from Edible Education Experience. You can sign up for classes or learn how to volunteer by heading to edibleed.org. You can also find Edible Education Experience on Facebook and Instagram. Be sure to follow Lisa Bell online as well. Search Lisa Bell News on Facebook and Instagram, or Lisa Bell News 6 on Twitter. Candace Campos is on social media too. She's on Twitter, just search @CandaceNews6, and on Facebook, search Candace Campos News 6. Also, a big thank you to our technical producers, Derek Mosier and Ryan Haley. I'm the show's producer, Thomas Mates. Florida Foodie is available to download wherever you get your podcasts. Please take the time to rate and review us, and you can find videos of all of our podcasts at clickorlando.com/podcasts.